And I know we took a little bit of the time with the pieces of music earlier in the service, so we're not going to have a closing hymn. So as I wrap up today, we'll move directly to our extinguishing of our chalice. I want to share a verse from the Quran, chapter 2, verse 185. It reads, "The month of Ramadan is that in which was revealed the Quran, a guidance for humankind, and clear proofs of the guidance and the criterion of right and wrong. And whosoever of you is present, let them fast for the month, and whosoever of you is sick or on a journey, a number of other days. Allah desires for you ease. It is not hardship for you, and that you should complete the period, and that you should magnify Allah for having guided you, and that perhaps you may be thankful." It is believed that the Quran was first revealed to Muhammad during this month of Ramadan, which has been referred to as the best of times. The first revelation was sent down on, as you heard in the poem of our opening words, the night of power. Allah proclaimed to Muhammad that fasting for his sake was not a new innovation in monotheism, but rather an obligation practiced by those truly devoted to Allah. And all of this is based on the lunar calendar, so it stretches across a month at a different time each year on the calendar that we observe. Now, at our household here, we follow the lunar calendar, which is why we had some awake time last night about 3 a.m. So if you would like to be a part of the lunar calendar, I can certainly make sure that you get awakened with us. Also, early in the morning as well. And this year on the lunar calendar, Ramadan begins on the evening of Monday, April 12th, and then will conclude on the evening of Wednesday, May 12th. So we're kind of a little bit more than halfway through the Ramadan holy days at this point. Fast begins at sunrise each day, and as Muslims obtain from any food or drink, including water, then it ends at sundown each evening, usually with a community feast. In addition to the fast, the month of Ramadan provides a chance to read and study the Quran and focus intently on spiritual life. Many in Islam believe that the devil is chained up for a month during Ramadan and has less influence, providing a space for spiritual goodness to flourish. Many use this month as a time of minimalizing and doing spring cleaning, which goes hand in hand with Ramadan. And then as those spring cleaning events happen, the minimalizing happens, we see that there is an abundance. And we move to another part of value of Ramadan, that is the call to acts of charity and kindness. Often during the month of Ramadan, every day, acts of charity and kindness are a part of the religious and spiritual practice, reaching out to those in need, because the fast often provides empathy for the poor and the needy, shines a light on our own sense of abundance, if that is the case. Ramadan provides this connection to our human core of believing that we have enough and that we can share, instead of the corruption of scarcity and fear and self-preservation. Religion has picked up on this phenomenon of delayed gratification and fasting for centuries. Many religious traditions use a period of fasting for spiritual development. Lent is a period of fasting for Christians. Yom Kippur and many other holidays initiate this activity for the followers of Judaism. Most monks and nuns within the Buddhist faith do not ever eat after the noonday meal. Mormons skip meals once a month. Hindus fast according to certain deities and festival days, which can be up to 220 days a year. The fast of Ramadan is practiced each year by Muslims, and Baha'i perform a 19-day fast to reinvigorate the soul and bring the person closer to God. And today we know through scientific studies that when we cease the overindulgence that has become so common in our modern world, even for a short while, our physical bodies experience a renewal. Fasting will rest the digestive system, allowing for the cleansing and detoxification of the body, and create a break in eating patterns, promoting greater mental clarity, increasing brain activity, and leading to a feeling of physical lightness, which helps people increase their energy level. It's estimated that 65% of the body's energy must be directed to the digestive organs after a heavy meal. That number goes up on holidays like Thanksgiving to around 85% of your energy, which is why we find ourselves sleeping in the living room afterwards, and in addition to some of the chemicals in the food we eat. Free up this energy after eating. Instead of eating, freeing up this energy can be diverted to healing and recuperation. There are physical benefits of fasting that we know impact the body. And of course, anytime that we talk about fasting, we're referring to healthy fasting, not quitting eating entirely. And anyone who is considering engaging in a fast should talk to a doctor before participating if you feel unsure about that. Fasting can often be used in an unhealthy way as an excuse for not eating and can lead to, or at least enhance, eating disorders that are already present. And we certainly don't want to recommend that. One reflection I had on Ramadan this past couple of weeks ago, in the conversation I was having with an imam friend here in Columbia, came as he told me, as was talking a little bit about fasting through the day, how when you cut yourself off from food and water, even for just the length of a day, it provides an awareness then of food and water, paying attention to the food that others are eating or the body's need for water and food. And often that is something that we take for granted or maybe even ignore entirely while we are consuming it. We often eat or drink while our minds are distracted and doing other things. At my other job, apart from the church, we often have what we call lunch meetings, which means we just are not taking a break for lunch and we're just using that as an excuse to use that time for another meeting. And I have found myself often in those meetings not even thinking about what I'm eating, not being aware of the taste, not even being aware of whether I'm hungry or not. And how often do we find ourselves distracted in some kind of event? We don't take the time to center ourselves and eat. I know that times that I have silenced myself and eaten, I taste food, I feel my body, I feel the places inside me that need food. I feel myself hungering for the health. One of the shows that I watched a few years ago was called Alone on the History Channel, and it was probably a little bit of propaganda, probably not completely authentic, but there was an experience of dropping 12 people off on an island and putting them in places where they were utterly alone with two cameras where they could record their thoughts. And many of them tapped out on the first day. But if you watch the first season, there was one who lasted, I think, about a month and a half of trying to find food on this island, trying to find survival, trying to find water to drink, and of course, not having an abundance of food. And his name was Alan. And one of the reflections that Alan made is that he can tell now, paying attention to his body, what his body needs. As he walks around, he sees food and he knows that his body is craving protein, craving fiber, craving other things that he needs. And when he eats in silence, can feel his body receiving the food that is there. Think about if we had that kind of relationship with food, where we are that aware of what we are eating instead of being so distracted while we are consuming our meals and our snacks. The absence of food and water during the day causes the mind to be fully aware of food. And then when the feast is broken in the evening, you become aware of the taste of every morsel and feel your body responding at that feast to the food and water. After my conversation with Omar, I began reflecting on the experience of this pandemic. I began thinking about, apart from food and water, which we often have had an abundance because of the pandemic. But what have we been disconnected from that we take for granted? I hear the conversations that we often have with each other. And at this point, one of the questions that come to me most often is, when will we start gathering in person again as a congregation at the UUCC? And that question is coming from the place of longing for something that maybe we just took for granted, our ability to gather together in one space for a time of worship together. I see Facebook posts of folks who are posting pictures of gathering at a restaurant and saying, man, I miss the ability to sit down in a restaurant together without masks and eat a meal together. Maybe it's hugs and kisses and physical affection from friends and family that you're missing during this pandemic. There are so many things that we have experienced a disconnection from that maybe we took for granted. And we have experienced a heightened awareness of how we miss these social connections in our life. So in this month of Ramadan, may we become more self-aware, aware of what is absent in our lives, things that we maybe have taken for granted. And maybe you want to safely try a day-long fast and experience a new relationship with food. However we choose to observe this holiday, we can develop a renewed relationship with our spiritual selves and find value again in the many things that often go unnoticed and unappreciated in our lives. And as you use out of that spiritual renewal, wholeness will flow, peace will flow, and love will flow. Thank you.